On today's episode, we're going to be talking about the Toronto Raptors. This episode wraps up all of the first round exit teams as we slowly approach the end of this series. The Raptors were coming off a year where they went 30-52 in 2024-25, an injury-riddled year to their entire lineup, but there was definitely a shift in the second half which gave them a lot to build on. They began the offseason by drafting Colin Murray Boyles at pick number 9 and Elijah Martin at pick 39. They extended Jakob Poeltl, re-signed Garrett Temple, and brought in Sandro Mamukelashvili in free agency. Sorry if I butchered that, I'm still trying to learn how to say his name. As for the losses, they lost Chris Boucher in free agency and ended up waiving AJ Lawson. There weren't very high hopes for this team despite the addition of Brandon Ingram this season. The potential is definitely there, but the narratives around a lot of their core pieces led to a lot of disbelief from the media. This had them ranked at number 20 in the power rankings. The Raptors came out hot to try and silence that hate, and were sitting at 10-15 after the first 25 games. This included a 9-game win streak during that stretch. Brandon Ingram and Scotty Barnes were the two clear leaders to start the year. They played their game exactly as everyone expected them to, and it was great to see the two of them healthy and playing great basketball. Sorry for saying great so much there. As for role players, RJ Barrett and Emmanuel Quickley looked great. Quickley was shooting efficiently and saw a bump in his scoring and playmaking numbers, making that contract extension look not as crazy as it once did. RJ Barrett was given a significant offensive role and thrived while also filling the stat sheet all around. He did, however, struggle with health and was in and out of the lineup for most of the first half of the season, and the team definitely missed him. But when he did miss time, we got to see some Jacoby Walter minutes as he filled in for RJ Barrett. Jakob Poeltl started the season having a few solid games, but was in and out of the lineup and even missed an extended period of time with back injuries. He was alright for the Raptors when healthy, but honestly, he does not fit their culture and sticks out when he's on the floor and not in a good way. He's slow, he doesn't really play the intense defense that they want. He has solid touch around the rim and can rebound, but his inability to stay healthy and just the overall way that he sticks out on defense brings his value way down, and he just doesn't fit the Raptors roster at all. When he missed extended time, we saw a lot more of Colin Murray Boyles, and boy did he look great. He did struggle with that thumb injury. I know there's all the jokes saying, oh, the thumb's falling off the bone, but he honestly fought through it for the most part. He looked better and better every single game. He was not afraid to fail and was actively looking to expand his game each time he touched the floor. He has an incredible future ahead of him. I was really impressed with what I saw out of him this season. At the deadline, the Raptors had a 31-22 record, and there was lots of talks about them looking to ship off Jakob Poeltl to get off his contract. Nobody was really sure what they would do to kind of do that. I mean, there was talks of them going after Sabonis when the Kings were selling, but everyone knew that they were going to have to attach at least a first-round pick just to get off of him, just due to the fact that how big his contract was. But ultimately, nothing ended up materializing out of that. They did end up trading a second-round pick to the Warriors for Trayce Jackson-Davis, and sent Ochai Agbaji and a second-round pick to the Nets in a 3-team deal where they got Chris Paul in return, because everyone knows he was eventually waived before being retired. So it's not like they were super quiet at the deadline. They did some moving. Bobby Webster got a little bit busy, brought in some youth to Trayce Jackson-Davis, but not anything too pressing. The second half of the year was honestly very similar to the first half of the year. The only difference is we saw CMB get fully unleashed in the lineup, and he continued to grow as a player, looking very, very solid. This did impact a bit of Mamu's minutes. He was getting a lot of run and popping in when he had to. I don't think he ever had a bad game, honestly. He became a fan favorite this year. He was stretching the floor, hitting threes, playing great defense, playmaking, playing a little bit of ball handler role at times when he had to. He fits the Raptors system. He's another one of those 6'9", 6'10" guys that does a little bit of everything. It seems like they're building an army of those type of players. We did end up seeing Quickley miss a little bit of time closer to the end of the year, and Jamal Shed filled in for him as a starter. I love Jamal Shed, and the city of Toronto seems to love him as well. He looked great in his stint as a starter, showing off his defensive impact and playmaking, and his level of play was so good that the absence of Quickley wasn't anywhere near as noticeable as it could have been. Jamal Shed is definitely going to be a career backup point guard wherever he ends up, but when he fills in for starters, there's no noticeable difference in the level of play. He's the guy that's going to go out there and do exactly what you tell him to do. I think I've said this before, but it's that Houston mindset, you know? They go out there and they just want to play basketball. They want to compete and they want to play basketball, and whatever they do is going to help the game. The Raptors ended up closing out the year with a 46-36 record, good for 5th in the East, and drew a first-round matchup against the Cavaliers. They went into this matchup knowing that Quickley would be inactive, as I think he was dealing with that hamstring stuff, but it did not stop them from competing as they fought this Cavs team to Game 7. This is also without Brandon Ingram, who missed most of the series with a heel injury. They did unfortunately lose in that Game 7, but we saw major growth in production from their core, especially Scotty Barnes, who was doing everything out there. He looked like he definitely solidified himself as the next great in the Raptors franchise. It might be too early to be saying that, but based on what we're seeing out there, he was absolutely unstoppable on the court every time he was out there. I was even seeing quotes online saying that the NBA has a Scotty Barnes problem, and I thought that was really funny. There's only one key player that I haven't talked about that I do want to mention, and that's Grady Dick. He started off the year as a key part of the rotation, But as the season progressed, we saw his minutes start to decline, almost to the point where he was fully out of the rotation. I watched so many Raptors games and never saw him once. I know he was playing in these games, but he was never doing anything that was very noticeable. It's an unfortunate situation for a guy that took a major leap last season. I know it was an injury-riddled season, but Grady Dick looked like a true scoring wing in the league last year. Looking ahead, the Raptors have picked 19 in the draft and can look to address one of their biggest needs, which is having a solidified big man in the lineup. The health of Pirtle showed to be a massive detriment to this team, and Mamu, although was very solid, lacks size and isn't guaranteed to be back next year. I think the best guy for them to target here would be Chris Sinak Jr. out of Houston. Sinak is a high upside 6'11 big man with impressive size, athleticism, and mobility, thriving as a rebounder, a lob threat, and a transition finisher, while also showing flashes of shooting, ball handling, and a passing ability. Defensively, his length, effort, and versatility give him tools to be an impactful two-way player. He's a very, very raw prospect, but would fit incredibly well into the culture that the Raptors have started to build. The Raptors took a significant step forward this season. They improved by 16 wins and returned to the playoffs for the first time since 2022, signaling that the team's rebuild is beginning to pay off. The injuries, however, did expose that team's lack of depth. Emmanuel quickly missed the entire first-round series, while Brandon Ingram was injured during the series, highlighting how dependent Toronto was on its top players this season. But the starting line proved it can compete. When healthy, the group of quickly Ingram, RJ Barrett, Scotty Barnes, and whoever was in there at the center, whether that was Mamu, CMB, or even Pirtle at times, performed at a high level and produced strong net rating numbers all season long. And that's because Toronto has established a clear identity. The Raptors became one of the league's best defensive teams while excelling in transition, forcing turnovers, and scoring in the paint, giving them a style that fits their athletic roster. The growth of Scotty Barnes this year is a huge reason for this identity, and he looks like he's going to cause major problems for opponents in years to come. I know there's all the jokes about Toronto finding all the 6'7 to 6'9 guys that can play every position, do a little bit of everything, but honestly it's starting to pay off. Guys like Scotty Barnes, Brandon Ingram, CMB, I might as well throw RJ Barrett into there a little bit. I mean, he's more of a guard wing type of guy, but they have a ton of guys that can just plug and play whenever they need them to play in whatever position you need them to play at. As I just mentioned, Colin Murray-Boyles emerged as a core player during his rookie season and fit right into this culture, showing he can play alongside Scotty Barnes and be productive wherever he gets plugged into the lineup. And it's because of this, the front office must decide how aggressive they can be. Toronto has the contracts, young talent, and draft assets to make a major move, but management first needs to determine whether this roster is merely a playoff team or a legitimate contender. I don't think they're a contender just yet. I think they're still one or two moves away from bringing in some pieces that can help them get to that point. The Raptors sit just below the luxury tax and the first apron, meaning any significant additions could require salary clearing moves or careful cap management. A big issue there is the contract of Jakob Poeltl, but using some of the money to re-sign Mamu is a priority. Mamu became one of the team's best value signings, posting career best numbers and emerging as a key rotation player. Keeping him could be complicated because of Toronto's cap situation, but I'm sure they will do what they can to figure out and keep him around. Now for the extension eligible guys. RJ Barrett was arguably Toronto's best player performer outside Scotty Barnes, averaging over 24 points per game while shooting efficiently. However, his durability remains a concern as he enters his final year of his contract. There are trade rumors that his name pops up in all the time, but I think he's shown that he can be a key part of what this team is building, and extension should be a priority when time comes. Other extension candidates include Jamal Shed, Jonathan Mobo, and Grady Dick. Jamal Shed is a no-brainer as he has shown he can be a tremendous backup point guard that can step in the starting lineup whenever is needed. A true floor general for that bench unit there. As for Mobo and Dick, they didn't show enough this year to warrant an extension just yet, and they'll probably be ones that the front office holds off for now, just to kind of see how next season kind of plays out. They might get extension. I think Grady Dick will get a little bit of an extension. I mean, Jonathan Mobo is Scotty Barnes' best friend, so they'll probably get some kind of contract, but I don't think they're in a rush to extend these two guys. Entering free agency, though, the biggest roster need outside of the big man situation is shooting. Toronto ranked near the bottom of the league in three-point shooting, and several key rotation players struggle shooting from deep this year. Adding more spacing and improved internal shooting development will be critical for this team to be successful. But to sum it all up, the Raptors proved they're back in the playoff picture thanks to a strong defensive identity and a talented core. But this offseason will determine whether they continue building patiently or aggressively pursue moves to become a true contender in the Eastern Conference.